when we talk about any specific ancient religion, ancient tradition, you can bring up Christianity, Islam, and even any ancient book. We talk about the Bible, the Quran, Hinduism, Buddhism. We talk about any ancient religion, even karma and reincarnation. Any ancient religion, any ancient idea rooted in spirituality. You know, a lot of people, when they get into this idea of when they decide to become Christian, when they decide to associate themselves with a specific religion, they pretty much get into the mindset of my religion is right and this religion, and therefore this religion cannot be correct, right? So, for example, Christianity has a theory of the afterlife, right? Buddhism has a completely different theory of the afterlife compared to Christianity, and so does Islam. So, we see what kind of happens here when people tend to align themselves with a certain religion. They tend to get this idea that I'm part of this religion, and that means that I have to fight against this religion, and that's not exactly quite the point of what's supposed to happen or what the religion was designed to do, right? It's not really the point of what it is. You know, they say that almost all world wars in the world are started from three things. And those three things are ethnicity, religion, and also nationality, right? So that means a lot of wars tend to get started for religious reasons, for national reasons, or possibly for, that third reason that we started, right? Whether someone aligns themselves with a specific identity in terms of that, right? Now, we've seen throughout history, it may not be that recent, we've seen throughout history a lot of wars has been started from religion, right? We've seen the Crusades. We've seen millions of people possibly, you know, give themselves up for their religion, right? So we've seen plenty of people who were willing to even sacrifice everything for their religion, right? And I'm not saying that's a particular negative thing. What I am saying is if you take a step back and you remove the ego, this ego part of yourself that says, I have to be right, or, this specific way I believe that life works, I have to be right. A lot of people have that idea. Even I'm guilty of it too, where it's like, you feel every person likes to think that they're right about everything, or not right about everything, that they're right in their philosophy and the way that they view life, right? Every person likes to view themselves as correct, right? No one believes in a bunch of things and thinks that they're wrong about it, because if they did, they'd change their opinion on it, right? So every person has their way of viewing their world and their own philosophies that they believe in, right? So once you keep that in mind, you have to also keep in mind that in the same way people do treat religion like that, where they say, hey, I'm Christian, and that means all of my ideas on the afterlife, or historically what's happened, that kind of pushes me away from other religion. And that's not exactly what the religion is designed to do, right? That's not exactly what the religion is for, right? And if you look at core concepts in, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, the Quran, the Holy Bible, if you look at core concepts and core ideas in all these religions, or even in karma and reincarnation, you'll discover that all these religions pretty much have the same ideas. They have the same basic ideas where they preach about being a good person. They have the same basic ideas of, hey, you're not supposed to do messed up things to people for no reason. They have the same basic ideas of when you do evil in this world, God will eventually, you will have to answer to God for it in some way, right? All religions preach this idea that we kind of have a soul and that there is a life after death. Even if the theories of the life after death are different, they do preach the ideas of that we have a soul and we have a life after death. And all religions pretty much teach the idea of being a good person, and that the things you do in this world actually matter, right? And they do have an effect, right? So once you realize that, you can remove yourself from being married to the religion. You don't need to be married to the religion. You don't need to be married to your nationalist, to your identity. You don't need to be married to your name even, right? Now, I'm not trying to sound fake deep. I'm trying to say once you get too overly attached and married to different ideas, then you can start to get yourself involved in a trap of I have to be right, they have to be wrong. And you're wasting your time trying to fight different things. And you got to realize what you believe in, the other person believes in as well. It just has a different name for it, right? You know, Christians believe in Jesus. You know, Islam believes Jesus was a prophet as well. You know, Islam calls God Allah. They have different names for God, but they all speak about God. They have different names for their prophets, but the prophets are preaching similar messages of being positive, of being a good person in this world. And once you realize that, you're going to realize that, I'm not saying the truth doesn't matter, but I'm saying that regardless of what you believe in, you have this core concept that exists in pretty much every religion, in every ancient tradition, in every ancient culture. And that core concept is we have a soul. There is a life after death. What we do in this life matters, right? And as well as be a good person, right? Be a decent person in this world. And once you realize that, you can remove yourself from fighting with people over this idea. You can remove yourself from the idea that you have to be right about everything. And you can start believing that God designed this world a specific way, right? Everyone can see that God designed the world every day. Everybody notices the same things at the core concepts. And these core concepts, there is something to them, right? Regardless of the specifics and the details of the situation.